Hello and welcome back to Bourbon Barrel Talk. I am your host, Scott Minton. Today I am sitting down with my boy, Josh, Ofo fanboy. How we doing today, Mr. Hillman?
Man, I'm doing really well. I'm polishing off a couple parts of some beers here and just thinking about the couple of bourbons you poured in front of me.
So today we are going to, review / discuss one of my favorite new Riff picks of all time, the Ken Riffey Jr.
So you asked me, Josh, what do you want to drink? And this morning I was watching the news, and on the news this morning at 5 a.m., they were running a story about how sports cards were coming back and they were leading some kind of an investment, like they were out earning the S&P 500 or something in terms of value. Sports cards and sales and memorabilia and autographs, and it got me thinking back to the late 80s when I was a huge baseball card fan, about 4 or 5 years before the baseball strike when everything went to hell. And so you asked me, what do you want to pick? And I'm sitting looking at your stash of bottles, and I see a Ken Griffey Jr. picture on a bottle. And I'm like, you know what? Let's have some Ken Riffey because it brought back the sports memorabilia thought to it.
So I will tell you, this is by far the best new Riff I've ever had. So we'll sip it here in a minute, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But we also are trying, my wife bought me for Christmas the Flaviar or Flaviar or whatever you want to call it subscription. So every quarter I'm going to get a new bottle of bourbon from Flaviar.
Can they ship whiskey? Can they ship alcohol in Indiana?
They ship me this. So, I'm assuming we're all good. So this one is called Corn Trooper. And it is 101 proof, and it is made of 7 different distilleries where they went out and picked their highest corn-rated bourbon and blended it together to make it. The 7 breweries that they picked was Breckenridge Brewing Company, or Distillery, sorry, Oola, O-O-L-A, out of Washington State, Kings County, huge Kings County fan, out of New York, Balcones out of Texas, which is also another big one that I of the newer distilleries that I really like. New Holland out of Michigan, Highwire out of South Carolina, and Hartfield & Co. out of Kentucky, which oddly enough is the only one I haven't heard of, Hartfield & Company. So,
did they blend them all together after that?
They did. They blended them all into 101 and then I guess proofed them down to 101 proof. It's a 7 milliliter bottle, and it is what I like to call old school hardcore porn, or wait a minute,
hard school corn,
hardcore corn,
hardcore
corn. There
God, that was way too difficult.
So hardcore corn, the old school Corn Trooper. It's a United Craft bourbon based off of.
Which one are you drinking first?
I'm going to drink it first because I'm going to save Mr. Ken Riffey for the final finale there. So
well, it's taken a while for me to distinguish through my palate, through my bourbon snobbiness, I'll call it, what I like and what I prefer. But I think, as you know, I love the high corn and rye, and I'm mostly a no-weeder, if that makes sense. I like the high corn bourbons and those that really don't include any wheat to them for some reason or not. So I'm assuming I'm going to like this.
You should. It's saying it's high corn. It based off of the distilleries that they've chosen, it's definitely probably most likely rye is going to be the second ingredient. But I will say, just the nose alone, like there's a lot of malt in this. And so some of these must be really heavy on the malt side, because I get a lot of that.
It's picking up a bunch of fruity scents, fruity aromas in the nose on this.
So I'm getting fruit, but I'm also getting some real heavy sugar stuff, like almost like the vanilla nose, which I typically will distinguish with stuff that's typically on the malt side. Like
an Old Forester heavy vanilla nose to it.
Yeah, Old Forester. I would also say like a couple of the Kings counties that I've had.
Never had one.
A couple of the Blom brothers that I've had. Super high corn. But in some of those situations, those are MGP bottles. But definitely on the high corn side.
What is the MGP mash bill? Do they have a variety of them?
They do. They have a variety, and mainly because they're doing a lot of contract distilling. But they've got a wheater that's a wheated bourbon, so it's very heavy on the wheat side. Then they've got their high rye, what I would call their high rye mash bill. They also have what's their low rye mash bill, which is high malt, but it's also obviously corn still. But they've got a variety of different things.
I took a drink. Pretty sweet, to be honest with you. I'm not sure entirely what it is, but not a lot of burn. At 101 proof, you expect a little bit of that burn like you would have from the well-known Wild Turkey 101. But at 101 proof, this is pretty smooth, pretty sweet, some fruit flavors to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I can't distinguish the fruit, though.
Okay.
I mean,
it could just be I'm sticking to it from my nose on it, and I was drinking some very sweet beer before this, so it could be messing with my palate.
No, but I mean, I smell the fruit, and it's coming off as like maybe I would consider more like peach or apple. But on the taste, I'm not getting that. I'm getting almost like a tropical fruit, and it's not banana, but I can't put my nose or taste buds on it, honestly. And it's not bad. I don't know that it's a great pour, but it's not
you get
bad.
a little pineapple out of that sucker.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's pineapple or mango, or I'm almost saying it's apricot.
I couldn't tell you what an apricot tasted like if I wanted to.
Really? You never had apricots?
I mean, mostly dried apricots, right?
So I ate a lot of dried apricots. Now, I would not tell you necessarily what an actual apricot tastes like. But yeah, like dried apricots. I used to love dried fruit. Like that was one of the things I used to drink a lot of was dried fruit, or eat a lot of was dried fruit.
Okay. It's a solid pour for 101 proof. It's got a really dark amber color to it.
It does. It's got a good color to it.
I guess they don't give you a range of age on any of those whiskeys.
I could look it up. Let me look it up while you're talking.
It isn't really worth looking up at this point. I mean, we've tried it. It's 101 proof, and is it a straight bourbon whiskey, or can it be at that point?
It is a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys. That's exactly what it says.
Okay, so it can't be called a straight bourbon whiskey because it came from all those different places, but it's a blend of different straight bourbon whiskeys. That's interesting. Where is Corn Trooper located? Or Flaviar blends it themselves.
They do. They blended it out of those 7 different companies. So I'm assuming it was out of, I'm going to guess and say 7 to 14 barrels because I don't think it was a ton. It sells for roughly $65 to $71. $65 if you're a Flaviar member or Flaviar or however you want to say it, or it's $71 if you're a non-member. I'm looking up here.
I dropped a little bit of water in it to just see how the water impacted it, and I will tell you, it dried my tongue out. Kind of like I don't know, just like you had put something in your mouth that was just dry and cakey, kind of
weird, huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't add water to it.
So it says that the flavor spiral on this is maple syrup, cinnamon, and vanilla, and then banana, ginger, dark cherry, orange peel, and apple.
Dude, I was nowhere near any of those things.
So the ginger is probably the one that I was probably getting with that more of the tropical flavor, it or an orange peel. But I really, I was kind of off on this one.
My palate is not refined enough to pick up that.
And it's funny, Tyler mentioned that, as far as, especially on like the grassier notes, like to try to pick between, mint or pine or cedar or any of those type of things. I think it's really, really hard to distinguish. I think outside of banana and apple, it's kind of hard to pick up some of those citrus notes, I would say, because lemon and orange and lime and some of the other things that might be characteristic that you may find in a bourbon. I think it's kind of hard to pick up those as far as distinguished on that side. So,
gotcha. It's very nice, neat. I wouldn't add ice or water to it. The dilution to it just seemed to not do it right, and so I would assume they hit the sweet spot at 101 proof when they did it.
So this thing was rated a 7.7 out of 10. I'm not sure I would agree with that. I do get the maple syrup on this.
Okay, but you're drinking a whole lot of 10s on a regular basis.
Am I really, though?
Yes. George T. Stagg.
Well, I don't drink George T. Stagg on a regular occasion. I mean, I drink it, and it's good. And I like Old Weller Antique. I mean,
okay.
I like Michter's Toasted Bourbon. I don't know if those are all 10s, but I mean,
they're definitely.
I like Old Forester,
Well, that's a freaking 10.
Well, it's a 10 to you. I mean, but is that a 10 to everybody, or is it like an 8.5? Is it I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
It says the aroma is underlined with spicy character cinnamon, ginger, and orange peel, with a little bit of dark cherry and apple peel, translating to a perfect palate that is grand in the sensory levels for an American bourbon. So,
can you buy this on the shelf, or is everything from Flaviar?
It's all online.
Okay.
Like I said, if you are a non-member, it is $71, and you can still buy it. There's only a couple left, it appears. It says very few left. And the member price is $65 a bottle.
I do like the name, Corn Trooper. It makes me think of Super Troopers.
It makes me think of Stormtroopers.
Meow.
No, Stormtroopers. So I could see taking this badge and then maybe putting like a Stormtrooper head on there and, making some kind of, I don't know.
So what you're telling
Dark
me is
Alliance bottle.
It needs a real big tater sticker on it for
any tater sticker would make this bottle better for sure.
And we could hype it.
You could definitely. I think you could hype any bottle that was called Corn Trooper and it had some Star Wars shit on there.
So I'm really struggling with the tater hype right now, as I was observing a couple of the local bourbon groups on the interwebs on Facebook over the last couple of days, and they were talking about a Four Roses barrel and single barrel or bottle, and some of them were coming on and bashing it, and I couldn't tell if it was just tater fun sarcasm or if the barrel really sucked. And I'm not a huge Four Roses fan, so I don't really know, but it was humoring me to see this and to see that this bottle that sold out, or online that sold out or pre-sold in a matter of about 45 seconds.
Are we referring to the LBC OESK?
Yeah. So I didn't get one. I tried.
So I'm hoping I still may be able to get one. There supposedly are a couple that haven't been picked up. I just don't know if they're going to be held in reserve or if I'm going to be lucky enough to get one or not. I really just want to try it. I like OESK. It's not my favorite of the mash bill from Four Roses, but it definitely has those higher rye notes that you and I would be more in flavor profile with, and I'm kind of curious to see what they picked versus to what a typical OESK tastes like.
I was just humored because there were people that were like, man, this is trash bourbon this, trash that. And I'm assuming it was all sarcasm, because then they started talking about somebody getting 9 bottles and so on.
No, I have to believe, and we discussed this in a previous episode. There's people I feel like you trust their palates. And I think Jason, Matt, Andrew, the team at Cox's, I feel like we really, really trust those people, especially Cox's. I think Mike Fisk is the guy that runs their barrel procurement. I think Mike has a pretty sophisticated palate. I think he's tried enough bourbon between all the barrel picks that they've done over the years that he knows his shit, right? Like, he knows exactly what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing when he's picking a bourbon. Now, the question is his flavor profile the same as yours? Now, that might be different, right? So
probably not.
Well, I don't know. You loved the LBC shit show, right? The Old Forester.
Good bottle.
So I'm thinking,
and the Cox's and Evergreen's 90 proof single
so
barrels.
so there you go. So
But they were
you
both
love Old Forester.
Forester.
No, I know, I get it. But my point is that if they're picking an Old Forester product that you like, they're probably going to find something that matches their palate that's going to be what I would consider in a family that would be reminiscent of that Old Forester pick. Does that make sense?
Probably so. I mean, we've talked about that on numerous occasions. The keg liquors, and I have not had a bad Knob Creek pick from the keg.
No, absolutely not.
And there was also a Maker's Mark, a Maker's 46 or whatever it is, the single barrels.
Yep. I've already drank one of those. You're talking about the what was it, Breaking Bad logo?
Yes.
I've got one left, and it's unopened.
I polished one off during the holiday season. And I'm not a Maker's fan at all, but that bottle was really darn good. And I happened to see it on the shelf again, and I thought, do I want to buy another one? The answer was ultimately no, I didn't, because there's so many open bottles right now.
They still have that bottle?
It's like they brought a few out from quarantine or in the back or hiding or whatever you want to call it. I'm
just kind of shocked that there's still some of those left. I mean, people like Makers. But granted, it's a $70 bottle. It was very reminiscent of OWA to me. I mean, it really was.
Is that because it was 107 proof?
I think A, it's 107 proof. B, it is a weeder. I mean, that's what Maker's Mark is known for, is weeded bourbon. And then C, I felt like it gave a lot of those caramel vanilla notes, and then it had just enough of that spice on the very, very back end of your tongue whenever you drank it, that it was very reminiscent of just old school OWA to me.
I haven't had any OWA for a solid year at this point. I should go back and try it and see.
We'll crack a bottle later if you want.
No, not tonight. See if my palate has modified or adjusted any this year.
Huh.
Drinking hotter stuff.
Right.
So who knows?
So Corn Trooper, if a 10 was a perfect bourbon and it was Old 50th or whatever your number 10 is for, a bottle that's what you would consider high corn, what would you rate the Old Corn Trooper?
I'd rate it in the not drain pour bottle category and probably somewhere around a 5. I mean, I wouldn't pour it out. I wouldn't go back to it every day, and I certainly wouldn't put an ice block on it. It's a 5 or a 6 range.
So I didn't try it with water. I'm gonna say I'm about the same as you, probably 5.5 to a 6, 5.5, 6, somewhere in that ballpark. I'm a little disappointed just because I know that there's some Kings County stuff in here and there's some Balcones stuff in here, both of which are smaller micro distilleries is what I would call them. That I've been pretty impressed with some of the stuff I've tried from them.
You pour it over some brown sugar simple syrup, and I bet a little bit of bitters, and that'd be a damn good old-fashioned.
Did you bring me any of that brown sugar?
Was I supposed to? It takes all of about 5 minutes to make, Scott.
Okay, so I guess I'm going to have to just make my own. One cup.
Yeah, because
I'm
like one spoonful and mine's done.
Gotcha. All right, I see how it is.
Well, it was the hot stuff on Christmas Day. I took it over to the holiday with the family, and I took 86 proof Old Forester instead of the 100 I'd been drinking it with at home. But I took the brown sugar simple syrup, which for our listeners that want to make it, it's just a 1-to-1 ratio of brown sugar and water, and heat it up to dissolve the brown sugar until it's dissolved, and then you're done. I put it in a mason jar, let it cool off.
You don't bring it to a boil for a couple of minutes?
No boils needed. It's just dissolving the sugar. Now, I tend to put a little extra sugar in it because I'd rather be on the sweeter side. But for Christmas, I took it over. We had brown sugar simple syrup, and then I did a spoonful, and we'll just call it a large spoonful, kind of a soup spoon, a large spoonful of brown sugar simple syrup, and then a 1-to-1 ratio of I was using Old Forester 86 and champagne.
Gotcha.
And you mix the two together. Now I was probably doing 2 shots of each with the spoonful of the simple syrup, and just a really darn good kind of cocktail, and I'll put a Luxardo cherry in it just for sport.
Dude, you cannot go wrong with a Luxardo cherry.
So I was drinking them with 100 proof Old Forester, the signature 100 proof at home.
Yep.
But I knew that the people that were drinking it, the cocktail, when I took it for the holiday, they were not going to be down with the 100 proof. And my wife actually said the same thing because she had tried the 100 proof at home. She said it was good, but when we took it over with family, I took it out with the 86 proof, a lighter proof, less bourbon drinkers, and they all loved it. So the simple syrup, it was so much better than just the regular stuff you buy in the bottle.
Well, that's the big thing. Like, I think I would really enjoy a brown sugar simple syrup. I think it would add some definite good, more sweeter, but dark sweet, like almost like that caramel or molasses type flavoring to it because it's that brown sugar.
I got to try it with a light brown sugar. We had a dark brown sugar. There's two different kinds of brown sugar, but we had been over at the Village Anchor in Louisville or Anchorage, I think it is. And we had this almost a year ago, the brown sugar bourbon mimosa is what that cocktail is called.
Gotcha.
So we had tried it there, and they didn't give me the recipe for it, but I brought it home and tried to replicate it a year ago, and then I think I really perfected it this year.
So how much, champagne or whatever did you add to it?
It was equal. If I did 2 ounces of bourbon, I did 2 ounces of champagne.
And you did just like 1 ounce of the simple syrup?
Yeah, pretty
roughly?
much. Yeah. But
gotcha.
Very good cocktail.
No bitters or anything else with it?
No, I didn't. Just the Luxardo cherry.
Gotcha.
So good cocktail, good smooth drink. If you're a bourbon drinker, ramp it up to the 100 proof. If it's people that are not bourbon drinkers, the 86 proof, Old Foe 86 is great.
Probably even find some 80 proof stuff out there, if you want to get a little bit, on the lesser side.
Some Basil Hayden.
Yeah, absolutely. Basil Hayden.
Dude, so completely off topic, but last week I picked up a bottle of the aged 12-year 1792 at Costco.
Gotcha. Yep.
$39.99 at Costco. And if you set your prices based on Costco prices, you're like, everything else is just way too expensive.
Yes, Costco is definitely it's almost like it's a lost leader. Like they want you to come in and buy whatever liquor they have so they can, hit you on the other stuff.
So I bought a bottle of the 1792 aged 12-year, and it was a gift for somebody because I'm not a 1792 drinker, and I did a porch drop-off for Christmas. But then I saw a bottle, a similar person or same person likes the Basil Hayden Caribbean Reserve rum rye, whatever it is.
Yes, the
blue
Yep.
blue bottle. And I saw a bottle at a liquor store a couple days ago, and it was $49.99 for Basil Hayden's 80 proof Caribbean Reserve rum rye or whatever it is. And I just thought, that is way too damn much money for a bottle of Basil Hayden's when I just paid $40 for a bottle of the 1792 aged 12-year.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
All right, now it's time to.
That was off topic. I apologize.
Oh, you're all good, man. But it is time to hit our new riff, the Ken Riffey Jr.
Dude, this.
So new riff single barrels. They are 65, 35. So 65 corn, 30 rye, 5 malted barley.
Are you serious?
Yep.
You serious, Clark?
I'm serious, Clark.
Too much Christmas vacation over
So
the
a lot
last
of
2 months.
It's definitely high corn porn.
That is really surprising to me because you know that when I first started drinking New Riff, I hated it and thought it was just piss water.
Right.
And then a couple of bottles turned me around, and
This was the bottle that turned me.
Okay. So mine was a Keg Liquors pick that the first time I poured it, I hated it. And then I let it sit for 6 months, and I came back to it, and I'm like, man, that's a really good bottle.
This one's been open about 4, maybe 6 months.
But
Man.
there's, are you getting a lot on the nose on this thing?
Oh,
'Cause
absolutely. You're not?
to me, the nose on this thing is just kind of like air.
Sorry, I think you've been too much beer.
It could be good beer, stout.
No, absolutely good beer, but it would definitely cloud your nostrils a little bit on this thing.
It's like when you stick your nose in one of those Glencairns and you get all alcohol burn.
Yeah.
This is not it. It just seems kind of light and airy to me.
So I could see where you're saying that, but for me, I'm getting some of those citrus notes. I'm getting a lot of that like vanilla, maybe like brown sugar notes. But man, I tell you what, this is just, it's one of my favorites as far as the new Riff. I'm going to go ahead and take a sip. I'll let you talk a little bit about it.
I'm kind of getting this. So you tainted me, I don't know, a couple months ago when we were doing some old Dusties and they were decanter bottles. Mm-hmm. And for some reason right now, the nose on this is reminding me of a couple of the decanters that we poured that I just didn't care for.
Really?
And that's what, I don't know, the nose, and it could be something else that's blocking.
I guess you could get a little bit of Old Dusty on smell on this. Go ahead and get you a sip. It's 113.8 proof. So it's not the hottest of the new Riff you're going to get. To me, it's very reminiscent of Wild Turkey almost to some capacity, which is one of the reasons why I really like it. But it's definitely got some of the like heavy, like those sugar note type things. Like it's not your typical grassy rye, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Is it going to offend you if I tell you I don't like it?
No, not at all.
I don't like it.
You don't like it, huh?
I don't know why. And it could be that I tainted myself with very potent beer today.
It's a good possibility,
But I don't like it. I would have preferred the Corn Trooper over this.
Really? No, not me, not at all.
No, this isn't for me.
Huh. So you just really may just not like New Riff, which oddly enough, I mean, it's high corn, it's high rye, it's all the things that you like.
It's just young too, though.
Oh, it's absolutely. And this is one of the first picks they did. So, I mean, this is definitely like closer to that 4-year range. I mean, it's probably like 4 years, a couple of months. I mean, it was one of the earlier single barrels that they did.
Now, when we went up to New Riff, which was oddly enough almost a little over a year ago, we tried some very cool things when Jay was walking us through the tasting room. Got to try a variety of things that were just amazing, but I want to say they were mostly ryes that I remember tasting and really enjoying, but honestly, this isn't for me.
They just released, what was it, the winter whiskey, and then I think that they had another one that they just released. I can't remember exactly what it was called though.
They had some maltsters.
Yeah, some the maltsters, but there was something else though. I can't remember what it was, but
this could use a little bit of water to open it up. And I took a little bit of a drink as I had poured some of that or drank some of it. A little bit of water just opens that up an appropriate amount.
Yeah. No, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just, matter of fact, I guess whenever I drink this, most of the time it's with a little bit of a block of ice, and it really does it does open it up. It definitely adds some of those different flavors, gives you a little bit more of those rye flavor notes and things to that nature.
It needs to be opened up. I don't know what it is. It's got to be the right moment and the right time for me to drink New Riff. But once I liked the one, I drank the whole damn thing.
No. You drank it over a few days, too, it seemed like a week or two.
It was very quickly.
So it's just a matter of you finding a New Riff that you like.
It's got to be that quality bottle that, you hit it and it hits your flavor profile.
No, absolutely. I understand that.
With these single barrels, I mean, you could find something that's just, it's completely not what you want. So.
Yeah, I find that a lot in different things. There's just so many good bottles out there these days, though. I'm sure there's a lot of bad stuff, but I find there's a lot more good bottles of bourbon than there are bad bottles of bourbon.
I've had a few drain pours that I wouldn't go after again, some of which were 13, 14, 15-year drain pours.
Really?
Like I.W. Harper, to me, that 15-year bottle is a piece of shit.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it to where I would drain pour it. I mean, I actually have an open bottle on my open bottle list.
But it's a really pretty bottle, and somebody comes over and says, "Hey, I want that 15 years," so you leave it there.
So that's part of it. But then the other part is that I have a lot of people that like to mix my bourbon, and I'm one of those people that if you're going to mix bourbon with something, I really don't want you mixing my good shit with
So
random Coke or random whatever that you're drinking at that point.
I mean, valid point. And I had told you when we were doing the 12 days of Old Foe, I had not had a bottle of the 86 proof or the 100 proof signature at my house. And for, a $16 and $20 bottle, I guess I needed those at my house. And now that I've had them there, I've almost killed them by putting them in the brown sugar bourbon mimosas or mixing it as an old fashioned.
Which is not a bad idea. I mean,
No, they're cheap.
especially with them being as inexpensive. We're not going to call it cheap. Let's call it inexpensive.
Cost effective.
Cost effective, inexpensive. Because cheap would mean that it's not good. And I find that most Old Forester's pretty damn good stuff.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It's inexpensive or cost-effective bourbon to put in and mix with stuff. But I love the 100 proof in it, and this 86 proof wasn't bad either.
Right. Now, 1910, I would not mix with anything. 1920, I may mix with a couple of things just because it's got enough heat, I think, that
Wait a second.
it carries over.
You know what we haven't had yet, and you told me you were going to make?
What?
1915.
1950. I've got your label here, and I'm actually solid out of 1920 and 1910 right now. I need to go buy some more.
Okay.
But let's make that sometime in the next couple of weeks. We'll make up a couple of bottles. I've already got your labels, and we'll get all that squared away.
All right. I was just thinking I might look over at your bar and see a 1915.
Nope.
And for our listeners, that is a Taterific blend of 1910 and 1920.
Yep. It's called Pandemic Whiskey.
And luckily enough for me, I got enough empty bottles of Old Forester bottles that I could just slap that sticker on there.
I want to say they said that coming at like 104.6 proof or something like that.
It's a perfect proof there.
So I tried a couple of different ones of those, and I really enjoyed it. I honestly got to say, when I first tried it, I was like, man, why would you mix two of what I would consider the better of the Old Foresters together to make something else? But after trying it, I was like, damn, that's pretty good stuff.
That's true. I did enjoy the 1920 has never been my favorite. 1910, I've loved it and hated it, and it was the reason I started drinking Old Forester. But I really enjoy the 1870 at a 90 proof. It's right next to my single barrels, the 90 proof single barrels that I enjoy.
I can understand that. The 1870 is pretty good. 1897 is still the one that I have the hardest time falling in love with over and over and over again.
It's kind of the most out there, and I don't know if it's because it had to hit that bottled in bond, that 100 proof. If the flavor profile just being 100 proof is not its sweet spot, I'm not sure.
I just got to think it's just the fact that it's a less of a blend, that it doesn't get to that full 100 proof regular old school OVO. That's the one thing I can come up with.
I'm not
But
sure.
it's a blend of, I think, what did he say, 4 and 7 year whiskeys or 4 and 6 year whiskeys or something like that.
Bottled in bond has to be.
Oh, it has to be the same year. So it has to be all 5 year or all 4
in
year or
the
all
same
6. Yeah.
year. So, so I would assume they can't blend it to taste like they normally would. But
So that may be the difference, right? So their regular 100 proof can be a blend of 4, 6, 7, to get the proper taste, whereas that 1897 has to be all 1 year. So it has to be all 5-year-old bourbon.
and I may talk about Old Forester too much to where our listeners are going to get tired about it. I may have to cut down on my Old Faux talk.
Have to curb your old photo talk.
But that's what I drink.
No, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with you talking about what you drink.
And there's nothing fake about what I'm talking because that's what I'm drinking.
No, absolutely. 100%. Josh is definitely an OPFO fanboy through the core.
Well, I think that pretty much covers it. I didn't care for the new Riff, and I would have gone for the Corn Trooper again over the new Riff today, but it's not to say had I not been drinking some stout beer before this. That
Yeah, it might have thrown off your palate a little bit.
Yeah.
So, hey, Josh, if people want to find us at Bourbon Barrel Talk, how would they do that?
I think we're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, Bourbon Barrel Tea. I don't know. You know them all.
Bourbon Barrel T1, I think, is Twitter. But the rest of them are just Bourbon Barrel Talk. And then we got www.bourbonbarreltalk.com. And then we got bourbonbarreltalk@gmail.com. So, Scott, Josh, signing off. Have a good one.
Peace.